Yeah, it's time for normal world.
That's the good stuff.
That is the good stuff. Hey, it's been like over a year. I'm still into that groove. That's a good song.
I love it.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Groove. Hey, don't talk yet. You shush. Okay.
We haven't introed you yet.
Yeah, wait, don't. My name's Quarterback Garrett, and I am being joined today by Jimmy McCartney.
Thank you so much for having me back, guys. It's great to be here.
It's so good to have you.
Thank you so much.
I gotta say, Jimmy, we gotta stop meeting like this.
Yeah, dude. Seriously, it's unreal. I was thinking about that on the plane ride over here. The last time I was here, it was the first episode after the first assassination attempt.
Yeah. Do we have him booked for any more episodes?
Yeah, it's actually right after the election.
God, we gotta
Brace yourselves for November, ladies and gentlemen, if you see me on screen.
Just to point out for those people who don't realize that literally the last time we had Jimmy was right after the first Trump assassination. It just so happened that we had him booked for today, and a second Trump assassination happened. So it just seems like it's meant to be, man.
Serendipitous.
Yeah. I honestly hope it is a coincidence because I don't want to get pigeonholed as the Normal World senior assassination correspondent, Jimmy McCartney.
I love Jimmy. Hey, Angela.
Hey, what's
You're
up?
over there. What's up?
Yeah,
What's going
it's
on?
me. I'm happy to be here, man.
All right. Hey, thank you so much for liking and subscribing down there below and putting that comment in there because it helps in the algorithm, I'm told. Is that right?
Yes.
Cool. Also, hey, Dave is not going to be joining us tonight. Thoughts and prayers. There was an accident at one of his performances in Detroit.
It was tragic.
Yeah, it was really tragic. So please play that clip.
I think we have a video, yeah. Oh, oof.
Oh, yep.
Looks like a
He's the
piñata.
blonde one. What do you think spilled out?
Sadness.
Lots and lots of makeup. Yeah.
So, yeah, put that in the comments. Wish him thoughts and prayers as well. Thank you so much. Guys, we talked about it already. The Trump assassination attempt. Number 2. Mm-hmm. This one wasn't quite as I was going to say good. That's the first one.
Close would probably be a better word.
The other
than
one
good.
was, like a near miss. You're saying. He was golfing in Florida, and a crazy man that is politically undecided, I keep seeing, was found by Secret Service in the bushes with a rifle pointed in the direction of him, and the Secret Service started taking shots at him, and they apprehended him. You guys probably know about this because we're on top of everything. But to talk about it, I thought it would be poignant to bring in somebody that might know a little bit of something, might have some theories.
Oh.
That's right.
Who is it?
It is Jeremy Ryan Slate. Welcome to the show.
Ow!
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Welcome,
Hey,
Jeremy.
good to have
a
you,
little
Jeremy.
different tonight. He grew a beard, got some long hair. He's got a hat.
Yeah, he's looking cooler.
It's looking different, man.
Yeah.
It's after the accident. He's been...
Yeah, that's what'll happen. Change an identity.
Yeah, it's too
You
bad.
just got to keep changing your identity.
Bro, what are your theories right off the bat? What do you think when this happens? This is the second one during this election. Do you think it'll escalate? What are your thoughts?
So I had some different thoughts on this one, and then I heard Kyle Seraphin talk about this yesterday. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he was the FBI whistleblower that basically told us they were going after homeschool moms. And he brought up some really interesting things I did not know about this guy. The first being that he was actually trained in Ukraine to be an American fighter in Ukraine, which I found to be quite interesting as well. And the guy's got a really, really weird background where he pops up in weird places. There was a clip where he popped up on the Weather Channel talking about his kayak. And he had a Porsche in his driveway, which is kind of weird, in his house in Hawaii. He's also been on Newsweek getting interviewed. He's been in a whole bunch of different places. Like, something just doesn't feel right to me about this guy. Like, he feels like he's some sort of an asset. I just don't think it's more than a lone crazy man. Now, the thing that Kyle brought up, which I found very interesting, is he had tile in his nest that he had set up to actually protect himself as like a basic form of body armor. Yeah. And he had been sitting in this thing for a good 12 hours or something like that. And I think the thing that's interesting as well is there's people have said, well, this was not on Trump's schedule. They didn't know he was going to be there. But at the same time, if this guy is so in tune to taking out Trump, who's to say he didn't know that, wasn't waiting for an airplane to land or wasn't watching traffic patterns to know when to set up, because the guy literally waited for about 12 hours. So I just find it to be strange. The connection to the Ukrainian government seems a little bit weird to me, because if their funding got cut, they might not want somebody at the White House. But to me, he feels like an op. It just feels weird to me.
Yeah, to see him in another commercial. Did you hear about this? Is it true that he was in another BlackRock commercial? Because the last...
that I'm not familiar with.
A lot of stuff is coming out. As always, when these things happen, people are saying like it's not an assassination attempt. There's two people shooting at each other. We were hearing it all over the place. But yeah, to see him in so many different pieces of media already for years, some reporters saying they've been in contact with him, having conversations. Did you hear this? They asked his neighbor. And his neighbor seems like a character. They asked her, "Hey, what did you think of him?" And she was like, "Yeah, he's a weird guy, but I keep to my own. I don't bother him or anything." He had a whole horse in his house, and he was like, "What do you mean he had a whole horse?"
Like The Godfather?
He had a whole horse came through his front door, and there was hay everywhere in his living room. Like, what? This guy's strange. Like, where did they find this guy?
Hawaii.
Yeah, Hawaii's a different place, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't want to go too far over the fence either, but sounds like the perfect candidate for an MK Ultra or something like that as well.
Dude,
because
he definitely doesn't look
he's got a criminal record.
Yeah.
For the last, since I think 2002, he's been arrested a number of times on weapons charges, quite a few times. So he wasn't even supposed to be in possession of this weapon, which is like a whole other can of worms. But it seems like the perfect type of person to use in some sort of an op, because nobody's really going to miss him. He's been doing a whole bunch of weird stuff the last 20 years. And at the same time, the GoPro part of it, are you familiar with the GoPro part of it? He had a GoPro set up to tape himself doing it. Like, this guy was he was very into it. So it seems weird to me.
Question, you are trained, you have a degree in history, specifically Roman Empire history. Am I correct there?
That's correct, yeah.
Is there anything, because a lot of people say this is like the fall of the Republic, people get really black-pilled. What are your thoughts on that? Knowing history, are there similar events that are happening? Does it escalate? What are your thoughts there?
So, I don't know. I don't know if I'm quite black-pilled on this. I think I'm just totally contra what everyone else believes. Because if you understand Rome in general, like as a civilization, it lasts about 1,000 years in the West, almost over 2,000 years in the East, right? And there's 3 different eras in time. It's a kingdom first, then it's a republic, and then it's an empire. And if you look at where we are, the republic and the empire fall for very different reasons. In my opinion, I think though our political class is playing out the fall of the republic, it's very similar to a lot of the things that happened to Julius Caesar. But if you look at where we are economically and where we are politically, frankly, I think the republic fell a very long time ago. And, they've been saying democracy because we've been, an oligarchic brand democracy for quite a long time. 1913, in my opinion, is a very watershed moment in the world of being a republic, because there's 3 things that happened that year. The first being the 17th Amendment, which state legislatures could no longer vote for the Senate. The second being that income tax is now a thing. And then you also have the third being the Federal Reserve. So those 3 things really take away America's sovereignty. And in my opinion, we're more in kind of a fall of the republic type of, or fall of the empire type of period. What the empire falls from, though Rome's most famous historian, Edward Gibbon, wants to say it's 200 different reasons, it really falls for 2 main things. The first being inflation. By 284 AD, it's at 15,000%. And the second being immigration, out of control immigration, because the barbarian tribes are first being led into Rome, then they're being used in the military because military commanders are declaring themselves emperor. So those 2 things are really what brings the downfall of an empire. So the thing I'm often looking at is what's called Rome's 3rd century crisis. Now, in Rome's 3rd century crisis, you have military commanders are basically declaring themselves emperor, attacking each other and saying, I'm in charge. Now, I wouldn't say we have that type of a circumstance going on, but we have the 2 main things happening, which are inflation and immigration. And I think there's different ways you could get there. It could be your politicians spending into oblivion and letting your borders be open, or it could be, your politicians and military commanders attacking each other. So for me, I really see those two things as what kills an empire. And I think, though we're not repeating Rome, I think we're rhyming with a lot of what's happening.
Are there other, I would assume that you'd know other, pretty intimately, other historical events. Is there anything we can kind of glean from that? Like, obviously knowing history, are we doomed to repeat it? Is that what I mean? Is like, is there a way we can look at that and make other decisions? How do we get out of that situation? How do we stop going down that road?
Well, I think the big thing is we're not at 15,000% inflation, right? They're kind of lying about unemployment stats. They're pumping money out there till the end of time, but we're nowhere near 15,000% inflation. So I think on one hand, we're not there yet. So the thing I would say is we have to handle our currency. If you don't have a hard currency, then you're not going to be in a very good condition. And we have to handle the borders, because if you continue letting people in, you're doing two different issues. You're losing what it means to be American or to have, be in this country. But the second thing is also you're overwhelming the welfare state. And that's the whole Cloward and Piven problem of if you overwhelm the welfare state, you can bring down a country that way. And Rome saw that happen as well, because their grain dole that everybody in Rome was given a certain amount of food was paid for by the Roman government. So eventually that starts to create a currency problem in addition to now this currency problem they're having, because what they were doing is they were debasing their currency. So that means adding other money to it. So their silver coin, by the time you get to the 270s, is only 4% silver. That's a real problem. That's what actual inflation looks like, not for us being in a computer, but for people actually adding other metals to those coins. Now, if you want to say, how can we get out of it? The really interesting thing happens in the Eastern Roman Empire. As I mentioned, the East and the West, they split around 300 under Emperor Diocletian, creates kind of the initial split. But Constantine's going to be the one that really makes the defined difference between these two empires, the East and the West. The East is going to last until 1453 and fall to the Ottomans. There's a few things that are different about the East. Number one, the geography of Constantinople makes it very difficult to attack. There's not really much that we could do about our geography. It is what it is. The other thing is that it has the richer tax base, that being Egypt and Palestine. The thing that happens that Constantine does, and a lot of people don't really talk about, is he handles the currency problem. And I don't know if he does this intentionally or does this by mistake. But between the years 314 and 315 in a city called Trier in Germany, he mints less than 100 gold coins. And then what he'll continue to do is he's the first emperor to actually Christianize Rome. So he's actually taking possession of a lot of pagan temples and a lot of the gold statues in those temples. Okay. So he'll take those statues, and every year he'll turn more of those into currency. So over about a 15 to 20 year period, he takes Rome from being off of a fiat currency to a gold standard. And that gold standard is going to last from around 330 to around the year 1000 without inflation. So if you want to look at where we're at, I don't know if the gold standard is the right way, but if our currency is based on something, we're in a much better condition. I think Ron Paul's been talking about this for years, where if somebody were ever to put us on a hard currency or on a gold standard, that person's not going to be very popular, but that person's also giving the country the pill that it needs to swallow in order to handle its money problems.
Jeremy, do you think you could talk a little bit more about the immigration that was going on within the Roman Empire? Because I think it's really fascinating what happened with them, with the Goths coming in, fleeing the Huns, and they were let in, but then they actually ended up revolting because they didn't think they were getting enough services and help from the Romans, and their conditions were bad, and they ended up rebelling. Yeah. And I think that is a really big warning flag that we should all be looking at, whether or not someone is for or against the mass illegal immigration that's been happening. It's a fact that millions of them have been coming in. And then the question becomes, what could possibly happen if they become dissatisfied? So do you think you could talk more about that?
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing about Rome's empire, if you look at the crisis of the 3rd century I'm talking about, is around the year 238 to like 260, so that's kind of where we're at. But about 100 years before that, Rome suffers a plague that kills about 10% of the empire. So this is going to cause a really big problem for actually needing more military men. And as I mentioned, as we get into kind of the beginning of the 3rd century, which is around 200, there's now this power vacuum, because after the death of the son of Marcus Aurelius, Commodus, there's this upheaval because there's no successor. And it becomes the one that has the most power and has the biggest army that can be the successor. So what ends up happening is they need barbarians to now serve in the military of Rome. And they're always had to some extent in what's called the Roman auxiliary, but they're actually having them serve in the legions now, which is different because these military commanders that want to be emperor, they're claiming to be emperor, need more soldiers. So they actually welcome them in to fight in the armies. And then what ends up happening is because for the next 30 years, all these generals are fighting each other and claiming I'm emperor, well, you start to have immigration coming in from the north with the Visigoths and the Ostrogoths, and you have the Vandals coming up from Africa. So what ends up happening is now the provinces are getting unstable, and these people start settling in the provinces because in Rome they're fighting amongst each other. So as things get a little bit better, what starts happening now is even though the leadership situation strengthens, you start having these military commanders serving for Rome actually attacking Rome because they're unhappy. And they would make agreements with these military commanders and they wouldn't keep them up because, number one, there's not enough tax money to pay them. And number two, they just wouldn't have the grain to give them because in the 3rd century, the economy and the climate changes dramatically. So there's no more grain to feed people. So what ends up happening now is in the late 330s or the late 380s, Rome is sacked. In 410, it's sacked. And it finally falls in 476. Sacked meaning attacked and plundered and all those sorts of things. So what ends up happening now is these people aren't getting enough and they start attacking Rome. And what really happens is you see this 476 date for saying Rome fell. What really ends up happening is it transitions from being a Roman Empire to a barbarian kingdom. It isn't really a fall. That date is often used because what happens in the late 5th century is the Eastern Empire, Justinian, has this idea that I want to reunite the empire, and he tries to do that by conquest. And what he ends up doing is attacking the Visigothic king of Italy during that point in time, and you don't want your scribes to speak bad about you, so they talk often about that being the fall of Rome. But really, it had transitioned from being an empire in 476 to a barbarian kingdom, because what ends up happening is you have not many Romans in Rome anymore. What's ended up moving in are barbarians, and a lot of the Romans had either moved away or passed away or whatever it might be, and the system transitions from being a Roman Empire to being a barbarian empire. And since the currency has no power anymore, that's why the final emperor is deposed, because he doesn't have any military power and he doesn't have any currency. So why do we need him anyway?
Right. Angela, you have a question?
Hi, Jeremy. I'm a big fan of yours. Hi. I've heard you use the phrase money controls truth. And I've heard you say a lot just now about kind of how the Roman Empire relates to what we're seeing now in modern day politics. And I'm curious kind of how you feel about how that money controls truth scenario playing out in the modern day scenario.
I look at that. I look more at the fall of the Republic, which I think of what we see happening politically. That's what's happening now. And as I said, economically, I think we've been in an empire stage for a really long time. But if you look at the late Republic, the last 100 years or so, what's called the Roman Revolution, and it ends up being the moneyed and powerful classes just fighting against each other. It's not how we think of revolutions, of kind of the poor rising up. I think we've often been a little Marxified in the way we look at history. But really what it is these powerful people fighting each other. And in the last 100 years, you have, it starts with, in 133, these two brothers called the Gracchi brothers. And they initially start giving grain to all the people in Rome, right? Because now if they can feed them, they can pacify them. And then after that, you have a military commander named Gaius Marius. And the highest office in Rome was what's called a consulship. And there were 2 every year, right? Their term would last for a year. But Rome was terrified of the idea of kings. So they would have 2 consuls every year to split up power. And he holds the consulship 7 times. Now, the rule was he was supposed to have 10 years in between consulships. So unless he lived to be about 80 years old and had his first one around age 10, there should be no way he holds 7 consulships. But they used the idea of emergencies to keep allowing this to happen. You know, there's another group we need to fight off. There's another group we need to fight off. Then after this, one of his sub-commanders gets upset with him after a military command he should have taken credit for, and a civil war breaks out between these two. The guy's name is Lucus Cornelius Sulla. And after kicking Marius out of Rome, he starts this process called proscription. Basically, they would put names on tablets in the city of Rome, and you could bring their head to Sulla for a reward. One of the people on those tablets is an 18-year-old named Julius Caesar that will get his name removed from those tablets. So he's lucky and survives. Now, I apologize for the long explanation, but to answer your question about money, this is where it comes in. Mm-hmm. In the late Republic, it's often said that you would need your first year in office to get out of debt, your second year in office to get a profit, and your third year in office to avoid prosecution in some way, shape, or form. And this is what you look at in the career of Julius Caesar, because Caesar is somebody that he uses his year in power to actually kick his colleague out of office and pretty much run Rome by himself with a private agreement between two others called the Triumvirate. And he's able to basically control everything because he has the most money and the most power. And then after that, he goes and spends 9 years conquering Gaul, where he kills upwards of 1 million people. And on his way back into Rome, he finds out that one of his biggest enemies, a man named Cato the Younger, is going to prosecute him for crimes he may or may not have committed during his time in office. And that's where the whole idea of the die is cast of him crossing the Rubicon and bringing a legion into the city is. Because these powerful men had the most money, they could pay the biggest armies, and because of that, Rome really becomes a place for them to push their will around based on their military might and their money.
I got 2 questions.
Yeah.
Do you think Donald Trump is Julius Caesar?
I don't, and this is why I say that. For though you see a lot of the things playing out in the court system that we saw playing out with Caesar, in the trials of Trump, the thing that's different is I've never seen Trump run an army. Caesar was probably one of the best military commanders of his age. Right. And he did something that Trump probably would do. He wrote a book about it called The Commentaries, where he talked about himself in third person. Caesar did that. Kind of interesting.
Classic.
But Caesar doesn't lay down his power, right? He leaves 9 of his legions at the Rubicon and crosses the river with 1, and his enemies actually flee the city of Rome. Trump, though he may not have agreed with the 2020 election, and he spent a year telling everybody about the results of it, he stepped down, right? He's not in office. And I think that's the biggest thing that people need to understand is, though the way that he was handled is very similar, I think Trump responded in a very different way. He actually left office, and now he's trying to get back in.
In a positive way.
Yeah, hopefully.
I was going to say.
Do you think we crossed that Rubicon?
I think that's tough. And I think I actually was just doing an episode with somebody about Watergate today, because if you look at a lot of what happened during Watergate, to me, it seems like the Rubicon was passed there, right? Where the security state or the powers that be basically said, Richard Nixon, you can't be in office anymore. And we've had a very weird country since, even the Kennedy assassination before that. But if you want to look at where we're at now, I think the problem is we're so deep into this post-truth world where people don't believe what they're being told anymore. I think we've lost faith in our elections. We've lost faith in our political system. Yeah. So I think in that standpoint, we've crossed the Rubicon. And I think that's a very dangerous place to be, because I think even the New York Times put out a story again the other day. Well, it's going to look like Trump's going to win, but you're going to see in the following days that he's likely not going to win. That's seeding a story for something that they're going to do later on. And my concern is that's how a political system breaks down. Your rule of law breaks down, and then the trust in the system breaks down. And we're in a very dangerous point where I think people need to see trust in their system. And I think that's why even after Nixon, you had somebody like Gerald Ford, because it made everybody very comfortable with where they are in history. Yeah. Right now, we need some comfort because people don't have very much trust in the system.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Jeremy, thank you so much. If people want to see more of your stuff, where can they see you?
They can find me on YouTube. I'm the Jeremy Ryan Slate Show over there. If they love the Roman Empire, I also have another channel called Jeremy Roman Empire. And my company, where we work with media just like this, is called Command Your Brand. So we're over at commandyourbrand.com.
All right. Thanks, man. It got way too informative in here. I feel like I learned something.
Super knowledgeable, man. That was really coul to listen to.
It was really cool to relate to what's happening now to history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks, Jeremy.
Guys, I try to make it not complex, so I hope it didn't come off that way.
No, you did great, buddy.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Jeremy.
Have a good one.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye.
My brain feels wrinklier.
Full.
Yes.
That's the stuff that's important for people to understand, though.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be an exact mirror, but there's a lot of parallels that can be drawn between those two things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a miracle, really.
A miracle could be a great way to describe it.
It's hot outside. Have you guys noticed this? Summertime?
I've noticed.
It's so hot. If you're sleeping and you don't have a good quality sheet, it could be the worst night of your freaking life. But hey, look, I have a miracle for you. It's trymiracle.com/normal, and you can get some Miracle Made sheets, man. They're infused with silver, and they wick away bacteria. I don't know how much more you want out of a sheet, but they give you more than that. Have you ever tried these sheets?
I haven't yet.
We need to send you some sheets.
We're going to get
I'm
you
in.
some, man.
They're good. They're perfect.
In.
They're
Full
perfect
send.
for everything. You could sleep on them. You could lay on them. You can make forts out of them. You can make costumes, but I've heard that that's not okay to do anymore. You can't make the ghost costumes out of sheets. And I wouldn't anyways. It's a waste of great sheets. Okay? So you could use promo code normal at checkout and get 40% off, up to 40% off. Wait, there's more.
There is
3 free towels.
That's 3 free towels. That's a
Let's
face
go,
towel.
baby.
Yeah.
That's a neck towel and it's a chest towel. And you can get those and get 20% on top of the 40%. That's just, it's crazy.
It's astronomical.
And, I don't know how many times we got to tell you. They're inspired by NASA, which is cool because they're in space.
They wick away bacteria.
I said that.
Silver infused.
Silver, I said that.
Well, that's,
I mean, that's enough right there. That's enough right there. So try miracle.com/normal and get yourself that.
Use code normal to claim your free 3-piece towel set, which is a tongue twister, at save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/normal. Treat yourself. Get yourself a family member sheet set over the holidays. Do it.
Yeah. Thank you, Miracle Made.
We appreciate it.
So much. Oh, Jimmy.
Yes, sir.
Good to have you back, man.
Thank you guys for having me. It's good to be back here.
How you been?
I've been good. I've been traveling all over. I just did a tour run through New York and New England, which was really great. And I'm glad to be back here. And pretty soon I'm going to be doing Western Florida, Alabama, and then heading up to Washington, Alaska, and Colorado, and coming back here for Normal World for a third time.
Oh, yeah.
Right
So
after
brace
the
yourselves.
election.
Yep, brace yourselves for that.
Batten down the hatches.
One thing, that we were talking about a little bit, I'm very glad that we had Jeremy on talking about the Roman Empire and talking about the way we're at, because I know for a fact a lot of people feel like things are spiraling out of control right now. Things are getting out of hand, and a lot of people feel powerless. And one of the things that I think is important for people to understand is that we have way more power than any of us comprehend. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that stems through personal discipline. Mm-hmm. If people just decide to themselves that they are going to raise their standards of themselves, wonderful things happen. If you just say to yourself one day, I'm going to exercise, and if you already do it, I'm going to exercise harder. I'm going to eat healthy, and if you already eat healthy, I'm going to eat even healthier. Yep. And you just commit yourself to personal growth and personal development in all aspects of life. You decide to remove friendships that are only drama focused, that's not productive, it's not doing anything. You decide to commit to your mission. There's a wonderful book that I just read, not called The Art of War, by Matt McClary, recommended it to me. It's The War of Art. And effectively what it talks about is why it's important for you to remove all of the distractions and the things preventing you from achieving your goals, and how all of the things that can align as a result of doing that. And I think it's really important for people to understand that if you just commit fully to your goals, your dreams, your vision, your commitment to the bettering of yourself and the people around you, what ends up happening is, by de facto, it inspires other people to start doing the same thing. And if other people start deciding to focus on doing that, it creates a massive trend. In America, we all know we're trendsetters, for better or for worse. Those stupid fanny packs that are shoulder packs that everyone has, that went from 0 to 100 within a couple weeks because it became a trend. And I think if America just harnessed that ability to set world trend-setting powers into, I'm going to do personal development, that's going to be a trend, wonderful things will happen. And then the result of that is going to be people become more free thinkers. They start breaking out of that quote unquote matrix thinking. Right. They start looking at things from an individual perspective, questioning things. Maybe I shouldn't get my 7th untested shot. Things like that.
Yeah. Maybe I should ask questions about these things.
And when that sort of mentality starts to take over, they're going to start viewing the politicians that they want in office in the same way. And here's where it comes full circle. If enough people are committed to personal development and personal growth, and they decide that the politicians that they want to reflect them feel the same way, guess what? That ends up having the massive global change that we are trying to stop the U.S. from collapsing from.
Right.
And I think that is something that we need to feel re-inspired for, that it's not just that we're on a decline that's out of control. If everyone just commits to personal growth and personal development, I think wonderful things can happen, and we can stop this train of feeling like it's going off the rails.
Yeah. I feel, I've always said the thing, I totally agree, is all of these things, politically, everything, all the minutia that happens every single day that gets you outraged, that gets you mad, that makes you go, oh, we're black pilling. If you go like, look, I can't I can't affect those things. I can't change those things, but I can be aware of my own actions. I can treat people around me better. I can treat my kids better. I can teach my kids how to treat others better. Like you were just saying, it has like a reverberating effect on the world. And if more people treat themselves that way, and think about that, and like you said, better themselves, then they better the world that way. We were talking about it before. It kind of goes back to actual politics. Don't get so distracted on the big one, the president, which is like, yeah, you should be informed on who's running and vote for the one that most aligns with you. But you should be aware of what your local stuff is doing.
Yes.
What your sheriff is doing, what your school board is doing, who's getting elected there, know who they are, because that affects you more, I feel, than the overall federal government, because they're the people that are directly affecting your kids. They're directly affecting your environment. Everything is local, and they count on you not paying attention. People that will take advantage of you by taking state funds, by taking city funds, school kids funds, and giving it to themselves because nobody's paying attention, because they're all distracted by the big show over here. And I just always say that locally and self-betterment will be the ticket out.
Yeah, for sure. And it's obviously it's a mirror image of the larger picture too. Yeah. You know, if local communities are doing well, there's a direct, tangible result that people can look at and say, look, these policies work. Maybe we should implement them on a larger scale.
Yeah.
And it's all connected. And on a personal, I was actually thinking about this. Like, I say it, like, I'm happy to be here. I'm honestly, guys, I'm still blown away that I'm sitting in this seat doing this. I'm like the last person on earth who should be in this seat right now. Here's the reason why.
You're crazy,
You're a great guy.
No. Here's the reason why. Hear me out on this. I was a nobody with nothing from nowhere with unbelievable stage fright. So much so that when I used to force myself to do open mics purely to force myself to be in a situation that made me nervous, I genuinely believed I was either going to vomit on stage or shit my pants, like actually defecate and have it go down my leg. That's how much that's how terrified I was. Yeah. I was a homeless person a few years ago. And the reason that I even met Dave, as a shot in the dark, when I was just an open mic comedian, I asked him if I could do a guest set on one of his shows in upstate New York. Yeah. And he responded and said yes. And when I went there, the club didn't book a host. So they said, do you want to host this weekend? And I said, yep. And then in my head, I said, what does a host do?
Yeah.
I didn't even know. And then from there, the manager of another Funny Bone saw me and they had me hosting. And then I saw 2 soldiers from Fort Drum that were there and they thought I was great. And that's how I ended up getting my first headlining gig for the military. And I've done shows for the military all over the country now. And I use that as the foundation for me self-booking my own shows. No one asked me to do anything. Like, I was literally a nobody. I was just an open micer. And I sat down on my computer, and with the last $5,000 to my name, I just relentlessly started calling venues across the country, mostly colleges, because they paid well. And it ended up working. And then from there, it just kept growing. And I've been doing it full time for 2 years. And I was thinking, to bring it full circle.
That's why you do deserve to be here, because you did the work to be here.
Exactly. And that's what I was just going to say. Where I'm at right now, sitting in this chair talking to people, is a direct reflection of the actions and the thoughts that I had when I had nothing. My thoughts guided me and my actions took me there. And if I can do it, anybody can. You just have to have a resolute definition in your mind of yourself that I am going to achieve my goals and I'm not going to stop until I get them. Yeah. And wonderful things can happen. I went from seeing Dave on TV when I would make lunch, living at home with my mother, to being on show with him. Yeah. And if that's testament to what the American dream is, I believe so. Yeah. And I feel so thankful that this happened. The Blaze paid for my flight to come here. They paid for my hotel, my Ubers. It blows my mind. I feel so fortunate. And if I can do it, everybody can. And if more people in America start doing that, I think there'll be a massive shift for the better.
Yeah, well, I just want to say too, by the way, that we feel very fortunate to have you here. And I love the fact, a lot of people may not know this, but before we had this sit down interview right now, we were sitting in the makeup room and we were talking about our views on abortion and stuff. All 3 of us and the makeup artist had different views on what abortion should be, how it, what goes into it.
How to fix it,
How to fix it, what's going on with it in this country. And I think that it's so beautiful that the fact that all 4 of us had very different views about the whole situation.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you are a kind person, like you listen to other people's perspectives and you try to understand that other point of view. That's the thing that gets us ahead. in this country that gives us a head in this life. So we have to try to understand where other people are coming from and understand what their point of view is, or else there's just going to be division.
Yes. Yeah. And have like compassionate arguments about how you believe and why you believe those things, and try to not like fight somebody, but try to understand where they're coming from and then argue in a way that could change their mind.
What do I think about what they're saying? Instead of how can I combat what they're saying?
Yeah. I think that we get so distracted in fighting each other, like it's such a
and that's
such
what
a cringe
that's what
thing
they
to say,
want us
like,
to do.
Yeah, it's like they want us to be separated, so then we can get in our different camps, and then they could manipulate us in different ways. Yeah. If we all, that's what they're really afraid of, is like us working together and being like, wait a second, you guys are like using up all this money for yourself. Yeah. They don't want that.
Well, here's the other thing too. I think it's really important, and that's what we did in that conversation that was so significant, is not only did we not resort to becoming emotionally raged and shutting down and listening, but also thinking about what led someone to get to that perspective.
Yeah.
And if you just understand that fundamentally, I think that it'll take away a lot of the emotion aspect of it, because what we were saying in there, I think, is true. Regardless of political views, almost everyone, I would say 99%, even the extremists, fundamentally believe that they're doing what is better for the collective, what is better for the society, what is better for the nation, right? Yeah. And so it's not to say that you're ever going to agree with those people, because most of the time you won't. But if you understand what led them down the road, not only is it going to make the discussion better, but maybe you can come to a solution that is in a different perspective, from a different angle.
A solution that's better for everybody and not just accomplishes a goal for one side.
Right.
Or something.
I always think that is why we have the two-party system, and that's the way it's supposed to work. It's supposed to be like they pull that way, we pull this way, and then it somewhere lands in the middle, and we continue to try to find the best solution, and that's what we're supposed to do. But it doesn't work because it's so corrupted at this point. So many different people have it out just for themselves, and they use that system when it's supposed to be working for us. They use that system for themselves. So then we end up fighting each other, and nothing gets done that's productive, and we never make a good decision. It's just here's what I think is the main issue.
Yeah, for sure. And here's the thing, though. It is so obvious to all of us, regardless of our political views, right? I think everyone can universally agree it's obvious that our politicians are corrupt, but more importantly, it's obvious that they read off scripts. That they're effectively like a puppet that you pull the string, and they're just ready to say what they've been told, what they've been rehearsed by people behind behind the stage. Those are the people really calling the shots. And what I really hope for is that people, regardless of their political views, like everyone in America, starts to think to themselves and put more significance on that. If I look at that politician and I can clearly see, no matter how articulate they are, like for example, Kamala Harris, from her perspective, did a wonderful job in that debate in terms of articulating her points and countering the way that Trump handled things.
Which is crazy.
However, yes. I mean, I was shocked.
In any other scenario, she's completely dumb. And she's like me. Yes. And I'm not running for president. She should be talking better than me. I know that.
She was very articulate. However, no matter how no, don't say sorry, dude. No matter how articulate she was, it's very obvious that she was just rehearsing or reciting what she had memorized.
Right.
She's been spending probably a month rehearsing over and over and over. Nothing she said was authentic. Nothing she said was speaking from the heart. And I'm not just saying her because she's a Democrat. It's very obvious most Republican politicians are the same way. Yeah. And I really hope that we can get to a point where people start questioning and demanding, I want to see my politicians speaking from the soul, speaking from the heart, and articulating their genuine beliefs as an individual, not as a puppet. And I think that goes back to the personal development thing. If people start demanding of that internally, and that starts becoming a reflection of politicians, you'll end up seeing more people, whether you like Trump or Kennedy, genuinely those two men speak from the heart, and they are not pulled by strings behind the door.
That's what I like about this trend of Donald Trump going on to podcasts and talking to people and it being in this, not in a debate scenario. Like, we need to get rid of debates. Why are we doing this stupid dog and pony show where we're bringing two people up on a stage with the podium with these moderators asking these dumb questions that nobody wants to know about? Put them into a scenario like a Joe Rogan. If you had both candidates in a Joe Rogan where they have to actually express their own opinion in a room together,
where they don't know the questions,
long form,
where they don't know the questions. Like that is how you understand a person by their, how genuine are they, how their actual thoughts come out. Robert Meyer Burnett, creator, he's on YouTube. He's a great dude. He leans left, but he's a great guy because he bridges that gap. And he is like, I want to hang out with everybody because I'm interested in what's genuine. who is genuine? Not that they disagree with me or agree with me. Are they genuine? Are they a real person? Are they not just reciting an argument that they heard 500 times on the internet? Authenticity is the currency of the future, and that's 100% correct, because that's where everyone's going. They maybe not by choice, but they're flying towards genuine people. That more people watch YouTube, more people watch streamers than they do movies, than they do TV shows, than they do all of that stuff, because they want to get connected to a person, to an individual. And if we have politicians that take that and go, okay, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to have my own podcast, or I'm going to speak with other people in a genuine, real person way. Because it feels so fake when they have these debates, when they have these rallies. It's like it's performance. But I want a real person. I want to know what you think, what your policies are, and why you want to have those policies. Not just the people behind you, like you were saying. Why are you doing that?
People are dying for a connection.
Exactly.
Yeah. And do you know why I think that's important politically, not just like ethically and morally? The reason politically I think it's important is because when you have long format interviews, like when Donald Trump was with Theo Von, the comedian,
right?
How phenomenal is that?
It was a great interview too.
Yes, and I can almost guarantee that Theo Von's audience is going to be some people who typically either don't vote or they're not Trump fans.
Yep.
But you know what? They just got to listen to him for an hour. I wish Kamala Harris would be willing to do the same thing. I wish all politicians would do it. Because when you do that, it's not only good to be able to have conversations and see someone authentically, but you're also going to reach markets and demographics of people who haven't ever voted in the past, or maybe be willing to be persuaded because they were told a narrative and then they're like, wait a minute, that's not actually true.
Yeah.
I just saw the truth right there firsthand. So it also has a benefit politically too. So yeah, I agree.
I have a more silver lining, positive lookout for the future. I feel like the younger generations are going to be more aware of the fakery, of the performances, of all this stuff, because they've grown up with the genuine connection, with seeing other people in scenarios where it's not a script and it's not a performance. And I think they're going to be able to figure that out better.
I hope so.
That's what
it's going to be easier to fish it out, because you're going to see everyone's connected through social media. Instantaneously, you can see it. And I hope that is the future. You know, that's what I hope for the future. And I think that it can happen. You know, I hope that Americans can feel more inspired that good things can come. It's not just all a train wreck that's going downhill. Yeah,
I really do get annoyed at the black pill, the constant black pill. It's like the republic is over and we're all going to fall apart and it's going to be civil war all the time. I just don't think that's the scenario. Bad things are happening for sure. Bad things always happen. Yeah. That's history. Bad things it feels more personal because you are here right now, but there's 100% ways, and you had a great point on that. Self-improvement, that's what you do have control over. You have yourself. So treat people better, treat the world better around you, and treat yourself better.
Yeah.
And the world will be better.
And to give credence to your point, I think
we're just hippies, bro. Yeah, just hug it out, bro. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, just love, peace and love,
peace and love,
man.
bro.
One of the things that I think is important, I'm really glad we had Jeremy on talking about the Roman Empire. Yeah. But one thing that I think is important, a lot of times, even the people who believe that we're headed towards the collapse, right? One thing that a lot of people don't realize, it's not as simple as a linear up and down chart of rise and fall. Right. It's not just everything's wonderful, everything's great, and then everything's a disaster leading to demise. Even within that downward swing, which we obviously are, I think everyone agrees on that. We're in the downward swing. It's not just a straight line down to collapse. There are moments, if you zoom back, where it goes up and down and up and down. Absolutely. And we can stop the trend of going downward. You know, we can recorrect the ship and go back in the upward swing. I think we're already in the upward swing. There's a lot of examples of, if you know, DEI, diversity, inclusion, in like all these policies that Hollywood infused, all these businesses, BlackRock has a lot of hand in putting in. They're removing those. Mm-hmm. They're taking that stuff out and thinking about the individual again. And 2020. As bad as it was for a lot of people, and it was really bad, 100%. My father was almost fired because he wouldn't take the jab. It was a horrible time, but there was a silver lining in that when it woke people up. It made people go, oh, I'm seeing what my kid's being taught. I don't think I agree with that. What's up with that? And it made people get up and go start asking people stuff and going to the boards. So I think there is a change. The winds are blowing in the right direction, away from all this craziness that I think we just need to keep doing that and just focus on that and not get black pill, because they want you to be
black-pilled. They want you to go, who even cares? What's the point? Why do we, who cares? And then you just give up.
Because that benefits them.
Exactly. So just focus on yourself.
And also, here's the other thing, too. When you look at cases like Elon Musk, who I think, by the way, fun fact in my opinion, the world's richest man is someone who likes to put memes of dogs dragging their nutsack on another dog's face. I think that's wonderful.
It's hilarious.
That's the world I want to live in. Yes. However, when you look at what Elon wants to do, when he was talking about a government efficiency commission, I think that's as wonderful as it gets. Because guess what? We're going to find out a lot of things that are not so good and a lot of spending that isn't so great. So if we can implement that and have that happen, it is possible for us to get out of this debt. Yeah. We're drowning in it, but it's not insurmountable. Things can be corrected. When you look at things like are happening in Argentina, where they drastically reduce the government size and now their spending is getting back in check. Those are the things that can happen here. Yeah. I think we can fix it. We can do it. And like you said, I think we are starting to see glimmers of hope that the pendulum is shifting back towards sanity.
Absolutely. Hey, Jimmy, thank you for being on, bro. You're always good on this show, just dropping knowledge bombs like that. Hey, if you want to see Jimmy, where do they go? GYMYIV.com. 6 letters. I have over 250,000 followers on TikTok and over 600 on Instagram. Nice.
When I say 600 on Instagram, thank you, Angela, it's not 600,000. It's actually just over 600. Wow. So if you guys want to help balance that equation, I would greatly appreciate a follow. It's the same on all social channels, GYMYIV.
Hey, thanks so much. Hey, also, I forgot, if you want to see Dave Landau, DaveLandau.com for his tour dates. He has them all the time, every single week. And go watch, Bottom of the Barrel. He's on Bottom of the Barrel tonight. Yeah. So you can go over there and watch that. Thank you so much.
That's his promo for Funbone.
That's his promo.
Hey, and you have a new channel.
I do have a new channel, and I have a video coming out this weekend. It's about LA. I went to LA with a good friend, Darth Call, and we talked to people about the condition of the place to try to, I just kind of in the spirit of what you were talking about. I just want to listen to the people that actually live there and not just the articles and all that stuff. So I got a video coming out this weekend. It's Nega Garrett. It's negative because it's my 3/4 white channel that I converted. It's not any other word that you might be thinking about. Angela, you have a channel.
I do. It's called Angela Does Horror. All one word. Angela Does Horror.
Yeah.
Like horror movies.
What's up with our names? Why are they so weird?
Yeah, we gotta differentiate those. It's not an OnlyFans. Check it out if you like horror movies. I think the next one I'm gonna do is You're Next. So you're next.
You're next.
Yeah.
And that brings us to Into the World.
Yes.
Anytime now.
Into the world.
Second now. As soon as I find the page. I legit have lost the page that it is on. So, Angela, I may have grabbed the wrong one. Gosh,
I knew you were the one that
made the wrong one. After a second assassination attempt, the world. Wait,
well, that would be
I just found it.
Okay.
Here we go. After a second assassination attempt, the would-be attacker is what is this? I should have read this before.
The would-be attack.
The would-be attack is apparently not even relevant enough to be on CNN's front page today. What news do you think CNN finds more important than the presidential assassination attempt?
I will also say that I didn't know that this news happened until literally yesterday.
You wrote this, though? Previously?
Well, Dave wrote it. I just go through and I put in the little pictures.
Okay. You have a very interesting typing technique. The T-Rex.
I do it like this.
Well, you have arthritis? That might be. That's
not the tunnels coming your way, Angela.
Tunnel.
It's not a very good. What do you think CNN finds more important?
I'm going to say an 8-year-old drives parents' SUV to Target with anyone knowing before being found unharmed.
Oh, wow.
Literally, that would be bigger news before the Trump second assassination attempt.
Of course. Jimmy?
Yeah.
I'm going to say Jimmy McCartney's upcoming tour dates.
Hey! A tree falling during a Little League basketball game.
Hey, do you remember the story that Dave told us last week at dinner? I don't know if you'd be willing to tell this, but I'm going to tell it, and then we can edit
go
it
ahead.
if you want to. He used to do Little League baseball, and there was a special needs adult that used to help with the baseball teams. and he would dress as a clown, and he would help. And he would help with the baseball games and stuff, and he had wandered out into the street, and a car hit him, and he was holding balloons, and literally balloons flew
everywhere.
Wow.
Wow. That is an
and
important story.
that is something that he witnessed as a child.
That's so good. It sounds like someone pulled it off a Family Guy clip. Like,
Right.
No,
gateway
I
scene.
don't believe him. When he said it, I was like, I don't believe you,
Well,
Dave.
I didn't believe that your wife let a crackhead in to take a shower.
Well, you don't know my wife. So
Jimmy, his wife let a crackhead in to take a shower in their
she
house.
did. Well, I was gone.
Don't?
That's
That's a normal Tuesday for me.
Passionate.
I have Crackhead Tuesday. You know, just come on into Jimmy's apartment.
He was out of
It's the only way I
town.
get comfort.
Yeah, she needed to take a shower. I mean, come on.
I was a female crackhead.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was like, she could be a scout. Like, she could be like, oh, I need to take a shower. Let's take a shower. There's a woman here alone, and she only got kids.
How did it
Then they
happen?
saw the inside of my house, and they was like, I'm not
Nothing
coming back
here.
here, and there's nothing here.
How did it happen? Like, what series of events led to that?
So I was told they knocked on the door, and she answered the door, and she just asked if she could take a shower.
Old move. I like
My
it.
wife was like, yes,
I
you
respect
can.
Classic.
I respect it. I always say
I mean,
that
to
if
her
you're gonna,
credit, nothing ever happened.
if you're going to do it confidently.
Yeah.
If you do something confidently enough, like it has this weird energetic
Yeah.
effect where people are like, okay, I guess.
Just walk in with a ladder.
That's why they call it con man, confidence man.
That's
Thank
true.
you so much. We're going to see you tomorrow. Back with Dave and Bridget.
Bridget's here.
Bridget's back.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye,
Thank you, everybody.